My brothers, since the very beginning of time, since the very beginning of the creation of man, we have been at war with a sworn enemy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in multiple places in the Quran, He reminds the human being that, O human being, O son of man, Shaitan, Ibliss is your enemy, so therefore take him as an enemy. So much so severe is this animosity of Shaitan with the human being that from the moment you are created, there's a very nice narration that says that the first thing, ever watched a child come into this world? The first thing he does is he cries. And there's a narration that says that is because Shaitan waits for the baby to be born and then he pricks him, he stabs him until he makes him cry and he says to him, you and I, we are enemies. So imagine the moment that I came out of my mother, Shaitan was waiting there to declare his war with me and remind me that I am your enemy. Until the very last moment of your life, guess who will also be there waiting? The same enemy. Abdullah ibn al-Imam Ahmad radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, he says, I was there when my father was dying. Imagine Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, one of the great imams of this ummah. So Abdullah, his son, he narrates the story and he says, I was there when my father was dying. And he says, and he was laying there on the bed and he was going through this, what they call sakarat al-maut, the last moments of life. He's in and out of consciousness. He says, and as my father gained consciousness, he says, la ba'd, no, not yet, no, not yet. So Abdullah says, he says, I was curious that why is my father saying no, not yet? Doesn't he want to die? Is he afraid of death? He says, and then my father, he lost consciousness. He says, so I waited there and I was anxious and I was worried. He said, until my father, he gained consciousness again. And therefore I asked him, I said to my father, why were you saying no, not yet? Don't you want to die? And then Imam Ahmad, he says to his son Abdullah, he says to him, no, my son, I did not say no, not yet because I didn't want to die. I said no, not yet because Shaitan was standing in front of me and he was biting on his fingernails and he was telling me, oh Ahmad, you have slipped out of my hands. Ahmad, you've slipped out of my hands. So therefore I replied and I said to him, no, not yet. Not until I'm dead and gone is the war over between you and I. So if from the very moment I was born, Shaitan is there. And at the very last moment of my life, Shaitan is there. And he's there and his oath and his promise to Allah is to show that I will be ungrateful. To try and distract me and take me away from Allah Azza wa Jal. And one of the biggest tricks of Shaitan is to belittle any good that you do. This is one of the traps and the tricks of Shaitan, is to belittle any good that you can do. And you find, Allahu Akbar, an amazing chapter in Riyadh al-Salihin about numerous ways of doing good.